Hello from Barcelona. Hello, Dr.
Hello.
Hanadi, how are you?
How are you?
Fine, very well. Here near the beach, because as you know, Barcelona is very close to the beach and close to the football
how is
club
the weather
Barcelona.
now in Barcelona?
The weather is good, but let me tell you that it's hot. It's hot. It seems that
For
it's
a
not
beach.
really
Have you-
autumn as a tradition.
I don't believe it's hotter than us in summertime here.
No, what means hot in the Mediterranean approach is not the hot that you have in Kuwait, but in any case, hot beyond the traditional degrees that we have in autumn. Very
All
good.
right, I will leave the floor for you. Introduce your the next 5 minutes once you start introducing the session,
we have
introducing the
chats, 5
participants.
minutes. If anybody needs some water or some tea or coffee, they
Yes.
can go to get this cup of coffee or
Floor
cup
is-
of tea or cup of, I don't know, or whatever, orange juice. Okay, this is like a marathon, no, Dr. Hanadi? It's a marathon, a non-stop conference.
A 12-hour.
12 hour. That's
Yes. 12-hour,
That-
3 day.
That's good. Very
Yes.
good. Very interesting.
More than welcome. You can start your presentation.
Okay, let me check that my slide I can share. Okay, good. Let me share. I understand that I have 20 minutes. No? It's 20 minutes. What the time that I have for my presentation? May you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, good. Okay, good. That's good that I have this opportunity. And I don't know if you, Dr. Hanani, you want to introduce myself or I directly, or if you prefer, as you want.
You can start, Jos.
Okay, good. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for this opportunity to be with you today. I am Josep Pique. Some of you perhaps know me. I don't have any connection with Pique from the Barcelona Football Club, but in any case, in relation in terms of the professional relation, I know him. But in any case, I am the president of La Salle Tecnova Barcelona, and Dr. Hanadi invited me to be part of this interesting conference for sharing our knowledge about innovation ecosystems. And my goal today is to provide a framework that will help us for understanding the role of ecosystems of innovation, promoting the creation and the growth of the new technology-based startups. Our goal today is really provide to you a comprehensive understanding of how the ecosystems of innovation run and how you in your city or ecosystem can make actions that can accelerate this process to grow. I have been president of ISP. I am the 17th president from 2016 until 2018. And nowadays I am president of the Triple Helix Association. This is a global association that is a research network of researchers that are doing research on the interactions between university, industry, and government promoting innovation. And with all this information, let me start just with this first slide. This is the agenda. It's just for sharing with you how we are doing this concept of transforming opportunities and value. We'll talk about open innovation. We'll talk also about clusters of innovation, and we will offer and show the case of La Salle Tecnova Barcelona, my university, where we have our innovation part that is the tool that we're using for the third function of the university beyond the education and research, the tech transfer or impact. And let me start with the first slide that is going to share with you the idea that whatever we want to transform from opportunity in value, we're doing innovation, but we need some ecosystems that are helping us to transform this opportunity in value. When I say opportunity, it could be a market needs or could be a new technology that can really help us, for instance, to solve a problem of the past with a new technology or solve a problem of the future with a new technology. Whatever we capture and transform this opportunity in value, this is what means innovation. And innovation starts when we understand that we have a challenge, an opportunity, or a problem with ideation, pilot, and beyond that, scalability. For that, it's very important that the ecosystems must provide the best environment for developing these new ideas. Understanding that we need 3 ingredients for doing that: talent, technology, and finance. Talent and technology, we know both of that because talent is about the output of the universities, research centers, or perhaps the professionals that they have been working in some companies. But also technology is something that you know very well because it's the output of research and technological centers, but also technology that we have now in the market, but perhaps we are not applying in a different way for finding a new business. And the last part is money, finance. How can we finance this new venture to promote and to transform opportunities in value? For that, when we are growing in the way to capture value from the technology perspective, we sometimes start with a concept, with a paper, scientific paper, with a PowerPoint, but makes sense that we can create a prototype of or validate this feasibility, because with that, this proof of concept, we can advance in a patent, and that we can go to the working prototype. Working prototype means a lot because it means that we are really working in a prototype that is working with real in the reality. Beyond that, we can make a manufacturing prototype that we can generate in a continuous way a product or service, and also understanding the regulatory approvals perhaps could be if we are in this health, how the FDA is allowing you to apply in USA, or CE in the regulatory approvals of Europe. It means that we need some kind of regulations for validating that this product is good, but is fulfilling the regulatory approval. With all of that, at the end of the day, we have these new technologies that are advancing in the way to find the market. But also, we can have another approach that is coming from the market approach. When we have some market analysis, imagine in Europe, we have what we say the silver economy. How we know that? Because we see how the people is growing in terms of age. We are growing in terms of age, and we have more adult economy, more what we say the silver economy. And with that, we can really try to understand what needs they have, what concepts we can develop, and also what beta tests we can really validate that somebody is solving a problem because we're providing a solution with a real customer. And also we can make and send to the market, but more than that, we can backlog, we can really track what is the use of our product and what feedback we have from the market. With that, what we do is to connect in an appropriate way to the path to grow to the market. But also we create value when we combine different capabilities, not only from a researcher, also from a person that is creating products like the marketing vice president, or somebody that is manufacturing our product, or somebody is selling our product, somebody is financing our product or getting money, or somebody is managing the people that we will have in our organization. With all of that, what we have is a creation of value. And the value starts in the phase one when we have the first product with the first customer, with the first investor. But beyond that, we need to go to understand how can we market and how can we have to find the market traction in order to validate the scalability and to go to the phase four, that is for the exit plan. Exit plan, that means that when a startup is starting, is thinking not just in creating a new company, is thinking to create a new business model that will validate with the market and will validate the scalability, not just all the companies. Imagine that you have a company, you have 100 customers, and all the companies, all the startups, sorry, all the customers are in Spain. It's better to have perhaps 10 people in Kuwait, 10 people in Barcelona, and 10 people in USA. It's a different kind of value when we know how to sell and how to deliver products and services beyond our boundaries. And after that, we go to the exit plan, that will be how we combine talent, technology, and finance with the exit plans. The important thing about that is these 4 phases is providing us a big picture about how one startup is born to the exit plan. And this is important because it means that if we don't have exit plan, it's better not to born. Or if we don't have exit plan, it's better, it's impossible that nobody will invest in our startups because nobody will pay for the return of investment of this startup. With that, Professor Jerry Engel and other professors from Berkeley were promoting in a very clear way a good strategy to combine the finance from the business angels, venture capital, and the exit plan that could be IPO or corporate venture, merge and acquisition. This is important because from the business perspective, what we do with that is that the startups are not the small companies, are machines of customer discovery and customer validation. Because with that, what we find is who is the customer and it really exists, and we can really go to this customer, because with that, we will create a customer creation and company building, because with that, we will scale. Very important, this slide for understanding that what we have to create in ecosystems of innovation is combining corporates and startups, and to open the door of innovation of the corporates that until now were working inside the walls of the company, and they know that now the Department of Research and Innovation is the world. Is the world means that any company that want to absorb innovation, they look for not just inside the walls of the company, will try to find the new innovation outside the company. And the wall is a good news because it's very big. The bad news is that perhaps your competition is using the same department of research and development. It's the moment that we need to understand that we're in a wall of science, a wall of technology, world industry, and perhaps we need to work more and more in the first dimension of the innovation, that is what we say the local market. How can we learn locally in order to scale globally? That's very important because the first mile of innovation became our market, our city, our region. And that's the moment that we can offer the startups the strategy to learn in order to scale. Because if we want to do innovation, we can do some activities internal, but we can make some kind of acquisition by a new startup, or why not developing new business from our capabilities. Imagine that you are an oil company and you have an extremely good technology for getting oil from deep funnels. That the idea on that, imagine that you say, why not I am a water company? Because I have the capability to go deep and to get water. And with the water, I can sell water. This is the kind of thinking that perhaps we can rethink our business, not just from our core, with our non-core, but thinking how can we take advantage of our capabilities to do things that we are not thinking. This is important, this concept of new markets with our own capabilities, or other markets, new markets with external capabilities. Very important with that, because with that we have business units, we have a scout, and we buy startups, but also we can create new business units or to create a new spin out. With that, also we can invest in an ecosystem, like Apple is investing in the apps companies because they want to create an ecosystem around them. With that, we have a big approach for understanding that the companies can do innovation, because really they do not only internally things, also making acquisition, but also developing new business and investment. That's the case of Google when they were buying Hull and a startup from UC Berkeley. After that, because with this company, Google was creating Google Maps. This is Google Earth. It's interesting because the geolocalization was the way that Google could provide key information around you. That's the real value, not just to look for information that makes sense around you. But Google was not stopping here innovation. They were creating a new division that is Niantic, that is a new division of gaming, geogaming. And that's the reason why they were investing in Pokemon Go as a strategy to grow in this company. Very important to know that innovation is always there, and we need to capture this from startups, but also creating new business from our capability. That's the moment that we need to combine the role of the government, creating the law, the framework, but also the public procurement is a good tool for buying things that are not existing. Also, the role of university as a source of talent with education, as a source of technology with research, but also source of new technology-based startups, transferring the talent and technology with new startups, but also the role of the industry with corporate, small, medium, and new, and how the demand side could be the way that we make an alignment with the triple helix agents for solving the market needs or the demand side. But not every agent is working the same way. And we see that in inception, the role of the university is very key. And in the exit plan, the role of the companies are very important. And the government can really help in different phases, for instance, creating a venture capital fund or helping the companies to grow internationally. In all this way, what we see is that we need to cluster our capabilities and more than that, our sectors, for focusing in what sectors we can really be in a different way, like health, energy, or other sectors, because this cluster will help us to start to grow this startup because it's in an ecosystem around. There's the moment that, for instance, if you are in an oil system, you can do a lot of innovation coming from startups and also for investors. Or more than that, you can rethink how the corporates can really use, for instance, imagine that you go from the energy sector to the green energy. And really, you need to know how to do innovation, for instance, in hydrogen for storage of green energy coming from solar panels, or perhaps with any kind of green energy. Important because it helps us that open innovation is not just for whoever is in one sector, also it's for developing new sectors and new strategies, taking advantage from entrepreneurs that are the new companies that are creating new business and new ways of doing. They are the disruptive innovation. They are the providers of the disruptive innovation, for instance, applying artificial intelligence or applying blockchain or augmented reality. Let me go to the last slides of my presentation, because this is important to know that nowadays we have a global ecosystem of innovation, and we need to connect universities, government, and industry from different zones for providing the best highway for the people, talent, technology, and capital. Very important, because with that, what we can really create is a cross, for instance, venture capital firm between Barcelona and San Francisco, or Barcelona and London, or Barcelona and Kuwait. The important thing is that you can connect both with the capital, you can promote the mobility of people, and you can provide the mobility of the new technology. Let me talk in the last 5 minutes about La Salle Barcelona. La Salle is in Barcelona city. This is Barcelona. We have an instructor of and check of the president, my person, the general manager, innovation manager, operation manager, entrepreneurship manager, and also some project managers for European projects. And we have a head of the investor and head of incubation and a community manager. The important thing is that we are part of our university and entrepreneurial university. We connect our activities, entrepreneurs with investors. We transfer our knowledge from research groups, and also we promote the safeguard of the intellectual property. Also, we have a living lab inside La Salle that is promoting the developing of pilots, and also to promote the answer of economic and social challenge. For instance, we stimulate that all the students of our campus are developing social entrepreneurship. This is very interesting, following the SDGs. And also we organize a lot of technology-based events. With that, we have incubators, we have multidisciplinary labs, the startup lab, restaurants, sport facilities, auditorium, and also the IoT Institute of Technology. With all of that, with some facilities that help any startup to grow. And also we help them in the T-launch, T-growth, and also Tenisa, or also we have the network of investors like is H Technova, or also the affiliation of where we have a community of startups. We create near 80 startups every year that we connect with the ecosystem, and we connect also with alumni. We believe a lot in the investors, and we invite our alumni to be investors of our students. Very important, because they can be mentors or can be really beyond mentors, investors. And we participate in a very active way in international events like the ISP or the Pan-European Hub, like the Scale Up Champion. If you go and come to Barcelona, you will see that we have the Business Angel School, we have the Business Idea Contest, we have the Investment Morning. That is something that we invite the people to connect with investors, but also with the technologies, the showtime for our startups to show in front of our startups. Important because the showtime is the moment that we show the result of our work in front of not only startups, also investors and corporate. We host in a really good way the Christmas tours, the summer party. This Christmas tour, by the way, was in COVID time, but also we participate in some events like the Build or Digital Enterprise Show. Let me go to the last 2 minutes, just talking about the conclusions of my presentation. First, the importance of the technology as a value, but important to transfer and to create this value from talent, technology, and finance. Important, technology is good, artificial intelligence is good, everything is good, but if it's not creating value, it's not enough to capture the business model, and it means that somebody will pay for our product or service. Important topic about the open innovation. How can we invite the companies to listen startups as a source of disruptive innovation? Because with that, we can really orchestrate ecosystems of innovation, quadruple helix, that is connecting with some demand side. We know very well what is the path to grow: inception, launching, growing, and exit plan. And we also promote these clusters of innovation between the startups, investors, and corporate venturing. Really, what we believe at La Salle is that we believe in the role of the universities and entrepreneurial universities as the source of the ecosystem of innovation, working with government and industry. Thank you very much. And I feel that we have like 1 minute. If there is any question or comment, I will be very happy to answer. If not, we can jump to the next speaker. But in any case, I was delivering all what I was planning. Perhaps David.
Hi. Thanks very much for that. Thank you. Really good exposition of what an ecosystem is. That's great.
Yes, very well demonstrated. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Thomas. I feel that
Oh.
Now we can start with the next presentation.
Yes, the next speaker is David Gills, Director of St. John's Innovation Center.
Hi, and have you got my screens in the right order?
You have to commute because we see only now perfect. Now it's
That's
perfect.
good. Thank you very much. Thanks for your help. Well,
Okay.
good afternoon in Europe. Good evening in Kuwait. I think it's still morning in the East Coast, but it's great to be able to speak to people around the world. And a big thank you to Dr. Hernadi for another opportunity to talk about the Cambridge ecosystem. I spoke at this conference 2 years ago, and what I hope to do this year is to take the argument forward a little bit, because my talk is in 3 parts. I'd like to give a very brief recap of the history of the Cambridge Technology Cluster, which is the optimistic bit.
Excuse me, David.
Yes.
How are you?
Okay.
Honor to seeing you. Did you allow us to let Mr. Finkle present before you? He is in midnight
Yes.
in Korea, and he is in an unexpected visit.
Sure.
And if you allow him just to change between you and Mr. Finkle.
Indeed, that's fine.
Thank you so much, David. I know you are in London and I'm in Paris, then nearby. But for Jeff, he is in midnight. He excuse you if he can present. Go ahead, Jeff. Jeff? Hi, Tom. How are you? How is Florida? Tom?
Florida's good.
Good. Okay. What is Jeff?
Good. Jeff, he's here. I show him on the line.
He is online and he sent me a message if he can speak because he wants to sleep. Yes, Jeff, can you come in? No, yes, I don't know. Check, please, your mic.
He does not appear to be muted. We cannot hear you, Jeff. Or see you.
Technical support. Can you check with Jeff Finkle? He told me the mic and the camera is not activated.
I will check.
So sorry, David, about that, but really we appreciate your potential. Till the problem is solved, David, you can continue, accept our apology.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll just start sharing the screen again. And just to pick up, when I spoke 2 years ago, I talked about the history of the Cambridge cluster, which was quite an uplifting story. And I also talked about some of the problems that we're now facing. And now, 2 years on, I'd like to come to some of the solutions to the issues that we've encountered as a growing cluster, to take the story forward and bring it right up to date. Let me take a little bit of a step back. For many people, this is the image of Cambridge. It's historic, it's timeless, it's serene. And it was certainly visiting this Cambridge that made me want to be a student here all those years ago. However, there's at least one other Cambridge, and it's this one. It's the Cambridge of science parks, research parks, business parks. And it's the reason why so many large companies, so many governments are interested in Cambridge today, because it isn't just about pure research, it's about innovation, it's about the application of research, it's about the successful implementation of new ideas. And that really started here in a big way only in the 1970s with the creation of the very first science park, a picture of which is on the screen in front of you now. By European standards, it's quite large. It's a 60-something hectares. There's about 180,000 square meters of usable space. And it has now moved into not only being individual buildings for relatively large companies, but also having a number of incubators such as the Bradfield Centre or the Bio-Innovation Centre, the Bio-Incubator on site. So that was where it all started in Cambridge. If I metaphorically walk you to the other side of the road, to the St John's Innovation Park, I'm sitting in the building right in the middle of that slide at the moment, the Innovation Centre. That's the bit for which I'm responsible. It started in 1987. At the time when it started, it seemed very much like an experiment. Our founder, who was the finance director of the college at the time, wasn't sure it would be a success, wasn't sure there would be the demand for all the space we created. But in practice, it filled up very quickly indeed, and we had to keep building extensions to the original building. And then, roughly speaking, every 5 years, we put a new building around the rest of the park, to the point where over the next 10 to 15 years, we're probably going to almost start again by taking down the oldest buildings and rebuilding them to be taller, larger, able to accommodate more people. That's all I really wanted to say about the St John's Innovation Centre and the Innovation Park itself, before widening the discussion to the Cambridge cluster as a whole. And something that may surprise a lot of people online is just how physically small it is. The population of the city itself is a bit less than 150,000. If you include the surrounding county, the two together are about 300,000 people. But this relatively small place over the past 25 years or so has created, I think it's now 23 companies that had achieved an exit valuation of at least $1 billion, in many cases, several billions of dollars. Within just a few kilometers of where I'm sitting now, there are about 5,000 knowledge-intensive firms. They employ 60-something thousand people. So obviously they employ more than just the population of Cambridge or its county. There are people working remotely. There are satellite offices in London. There are operations in California and so forth. But whichever way you look at it, it's had a major impact on the economy. Another unusual feature, I think, of the Cambridge cluster is the extent to which there's quite a variety of different research sectors on which it's based. The majority, more than 50%, are still based in information technology and communications. But over time, the life science subcluster has been growing and growing. It didn't really get off the ground until about 20 years ago in this part of the world. But in recent years, there have been more life science startups, more investment in life sciences, greater recruitment into life science companies. So I wouldn't be surprised if we were to come back in 10 years' time to find that those two subclusters are approximately the same size. The other extraordinary thing for me about the Cambridge cluster is in reality just how modern it is. The university itself is more than 800 years old, but until the later 19th century, the university didn't even teach any science or technology subjects. It was only from the late 1860s that the physics laboratory, the Cavendish laboratory, was formed. It was modeled on some of the teaching of new sciences that had emerged in Germany in the mid-19th century. But even once the Cavendish laboratory had been formed, it took nearly another 100 years before you saw any meaningful startup or spin-out activity. Spin-outs being companies formed by the university itself, or startups, new companies formed by recent graduates, perhaps using some research from the university. We didn't really see that until the 1960s, when the British economy went through quite a lot of modernization in the years after the Second World War, and a lot of industry, a lot of business, a lot of firms wanted to collaborate with the university. However, back then, the problem was that our planning regulations were so restrictive that it wasn't possible for big companies to move in and have a laboratory next to the university. There was no space for startups to be based in the city centre, because the rule was that the only development that would be permissible was any development that would support the advancement of the university, so nothing to do with industry. That all came to a bit of a crisis in the mid-1960s, when IBM, which was back then one of the largest R&D firms in the world, was turned down when it wanted to move its European research headquarters to the Cambridge cluster. And the scandal that arose out of that led to a complete review of the planning regulations under Professor Sir Neville Mott, who was the head of the physics laboratory, as a result of which the first science park was created, followed by St John's Innovation Park and so forth. So it was a relatively late development. And as I say, until the 1860s, 1870s, no science was being taught in Cambridge at all. If I move the argument on to where we are today, by a combination of serendipity, really, we have seen a proliferation of venture funds, of angel groupings, and down the left-hand side of the screen there, there's the list of all the investor groups that I could think of that have a presence in Cambridge. Most of those actually started in Cambridge. Some are outposts of London funds or California funds. But for a city of our size, 140, 150,000 people, that is a lot of venture capital. Down the right-hand side, I've listed a selection of the science parks, accelerators, incubators that are based within about 12 kilometers of here. So without anybody having been in charge, without there having been any form of central planning, we've reached a point where there is a center that would cater to almost all the needs, depending on the stage of development, depending on the sector and so forth. There will always be a space for the type of company required. And I'd ask you to bear in mind that really important lesson, that this was done without any central planning. And up until recently, I think around Cambridge, you thought that was a good thing, but it's coming under a little pressure at the moment. If I take a step back and try and look at why do I think Cambridge has been successful, why has it been different from other clusters where I've worked over the years, I think it comes down to something to do with the mission statement of the university itself, which is up in front of the screen now. And that is that the university has a mission to contribute to society. So it doesn't just exist to do well in teaching and research. It doesn't just exist to win many prizes. But that sense of value, that sense of purpose, that sense of benefiting other people is something that has permeated so many of the entrepreneurs that I work with in my day job here in St John's Innovation Centre. And on top of the social impact, I think you can see from some research that was published earlier this year by London Economics, looking into the economic impact of the University of Cambridge. Over the years, it has been astounding. And one fact that leapt off the page for me was the extent to which the economic contribution of the University of Cambridge is almost 4 times that of the Premier Football League. So around the world, people have heard of Manchester United, Manchester City, Chelsea, Arsenal, and so forth. But actually, this one university is contributing 4 times the impact to the economy of the United Kingdom of all those well-known international football clubs. Another striking fact is that with so many startups and spin-outs, it's like a very advanced form of Pareto efficiency. It's a tiny number of companies, maybe 2 or 3% of companies, that tend to produce about 80% of the impact. So you have to produce a large number of companies before you can sort them into those that are going to be really successful. That was the good news. What I'm now going to move on to is the problem. And I think part of it comes down to the fact that for most of the 2010s into the 2020s, we in Cambridge embraced the idea that an ecosystem is a rainforest. It's something spontaneous, it's serendipity, it's creativity that comes through, nobody being in charge. It's the complete opposite of a plantation. And in many ways, personally, I subscribe to that as a value. I certainly subscribe to the values that Victor Huang and Greg Horowitz put forward in their famous book on the rainforest as the ecosystem paradigm. For instance, I think that so many companies in this building do keep failing, persisting, and learning from their problems. They do keep helping other people behind them, the pay it forward model. And it's a very high trust environment around here. So it's not as if I'm against the norms, the values, but what I think went wrong in Cambridge is because we had no means of having a little bit more cooperation, a little bit more central planning, we kept losing out on the real upside of the value created on our own cluster. Just to give you one example of that, I think you can see that almost every year in the past 20 years, any company that reached a very high valuation, let's for simplicity call it $1 billion, found itself being bought, often by an overseas acquirer, often by a US acquirer. And that's carried on right up until the past few weeks with Abcam being bought by Danaher. I think that deal has now been ratified. In terms of value, in terms of financial value, it's wonderful. It's $5.7 billion total value, but it probably means that so much of the know-how, so much of the directing mind will migrate to Boston, migrate to the other Cambridge rather than stay here in Cambridge in the UK. Another brief example of how sometimes not having a joined up approach can lead to a lot of challenges. The latest research that I can find on the availability of laboratory space around Cambridge shows that compared with demand, we've got 1 or 2% supply only. So even if we wanted to accommodate a lot of new startups in the whole lab space, we can't do it. If we wanted to accommodate drug companies, established players in the market coming here, we can't do so. We just don't have the space. And the planning cycle is so long that it takes a very long time to rectify that problem. And it isn't only in the tech space that the lack of having a joined up approach has hit hard. We're finding it in housing, we're finding it in transport. We're finding, for instance, that at the moment, building new houses is being slowed down simply because we don't have the water supply. And for those of you that have visited the UK for work or on holiday, you might find that surprising, but that's because our population has grown so much. In a nutshell, I think what Cambridge has hit in the past 5, 6, 7 years has been we've become a wicked problem. And a wicked problem is a term from the social sciences that means we're not one where you can define the problem itself simply. You're not one where you can define what the ideal solution would be simply. There are so many different people competing for the space, the resources, the outcome, that it's almost impossible to say what the problem, the solution to the problem would be. And putting that in context, I think you can see that where we've reached in Cambridge at the moment is the top right hand of the board. When I first started working in Cambridge 25 years ago, we were somewhere in the middle. We were a complex problem, but now we are a wicked problem. There are so many parties, so many complexities that the problem and the solution themselves are not clear. Now, classic strategies for dealing with wicked problems. On the one hand, you can take it, break it into chunks and try and solve each individual bit. And I think we've been doing that sector by sector, campus by campus. The other one, which is more exciting, has only just started in the UK, and that is bringing the whole of the system into the room. And let me speed up because I can see that Professor Finkle is here and probably ready to present. when I look at it,
Yes, please. Thank you so much, David. I appreciate
campus by campus,
your potential. Thank you. Thank you so much.
We're solving it. And now we've finally created a body called Innovate Cambridge that enables everybody in the cluster to come together formally and informally to recognize we have a problem and we want to do something about it. So I think the future is looking a great deal brighter than it was when I first presented to you in this conference 2 or 3 years ago. So Dr. Hernadi, thank you very much for the opportunity to present.
Thank you. Thank you so much. You did it, David, finish?
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Good job. So Jeff, are you on?
Can you hear me this time?
We can hear you loud and clear. So,
and can you
Yes,
see me?
Yes.
All right.
thank you for being here. I know you're
Yes.
sleep deprived.
Well, I'm greeting you from tomorrow
Okay, good.
because where I am, it's November the 14th. So one of these days, you guys will catch up with me.
You can time travel then. Okay, good.
You can time travel. That's exactly right.
All right.
So, well, anyhow, I probably am not going to take a whole lot of time in what I'm about to say today. And I'm not going to kill you all with PowerPoints. It's not going to be death by PowerPoint today. I'm going to talk about what's been going on in the United States. And in particular, there are 2 or 3 important observations that I would make. And I'm going to limit my presentation to those 2 observations. The first is that in the post-COVID environment that we've been working in the States, 2 things happened. And I think these things happened across the world, but I got a better chance to look at them up close in the States. And the first one was, as we have come out of COVID, our workforce has been decimated, not necessarily by COVID, but by our economy coming back very strong, and that anybody that frankly wants a job, can hold a job, will get a job. Our unemployment is way down. We still have a number of people who could go back to work and are not going back to work for some reason or other. And those statistics are not looking great. But frankly, if somebody wants to show up at an employer, we have employers looking for workers day in and day out. And we will also, another observation along those lines is that remote work continues to be a struggle for employers, meaning that during COVID, in order to get some level of productivity out of staffs, people let many of their staff work from home. Well, many of our employees are not wanting to return to work, and it is causing a great number of problems. Some of the studies have said productivity drops by about 20% for remote working. And that is another issue that many employers are trying to fight and trying to get the upper hand on that so they can get employees back into their offices and or call centers and or other types of service operations. The second thing that I want to observe today has to do with what happened when our supply chains broke. And I think it is very clear that COVID did break the back of the supply chains throughout the world. And the United States is trying to deal with that in a variety of ways. And part of that is to encourage companies to return production back to the United States if they had offshored it or outsourced it in the past. And the Biden administration has been particularly active at trying to figure out how to make some of that happen. And I'm going to go through some of the programs that the Biden administration, frankly, Congress and the administration have appropriated and authorized in order to deal with some of these issues. The first thing that the administration did is they came up with $52 billion in manufacturing grants and research and investments for the CHIPS and Science Act of 2022. What happened during COVID is many companies needed lots and lots of chips, and we couldn't get them. We couldn't get them in China. We couldn't get them in Taiwan. We couldn't get them produced at sufficient quantities in the United States. And other places that produce chips were not capable of getting them to where we needed them in order for our production capacity, not only for the use in computers, but also in the use of automobiles. And frankly, there are many types of manufacturing equipment that need chips these days. So the administration has put a fair amount of money into this CHIPS and Science Act of 2022, $52 billion. 2 chip plants are going in the county that I was raised in Licking County, Ohio, that Intel is putting into place. Second, the administration, and with the help of Congress, obviously, put $1 billion into a program called Build Back Better Regional Challenge. And I think those of us who have watched the economic development space over many years have noticed that many of our traditional clusters have disappeared from the U.S. shores. And so that the broad variety of clusters is down significantly. Well, the administration has goals of having 20 to 30 regions grow new regional industrial clusters, and is willing to put about $50 million per cluster across the country. A third activity that this administration is doing is supporting what are being called tech hubs, and that's to assist into self-sustaining global competitiveness, and that too, in many cases, will be different approaches to tech-led economic development and to tech-led clusters. And the last one that I am going to provide to you today is what is called the Recompete program. It's called the Distressed Area Recompete Pilot Program. They have just done a call for proposals, and they received 565 applications for $200 million in funding that will help persistently distressed communities. Now, there's going to be 3 levels of victory here. There will be a victory in that the Economic Development Administration will help fund strategic plans for many of these distressed communities. There is also a designation where you can just be designated and be allowed to enter phase 2. And that's where the real money comes into. The administration will fund about 20, or it may be as little as 10 to 15 recompete applicants. And those applications can get 8 of them can get up to $20 million, and 1 of them can get $50 million. And these will be game changers for these persistently distressed communities. I find, and I ran the International Economic Development Council for 36 years, and I have never seen as much money put on the table to make some real game changing in the United States. And that's one of the reasons that I have limited my conversation today to these particular activities that are being considered. In the Recompete program, it can fund job training, it can fund daycare, it can fund construction. It has a whole lot of different applications that can be considered for the Recompete program. So if I had to conclude this short presentation, I would say that this is as significant of investments that the federal government has put into regions and distressed communities in a great number of years. I think we'd probably have to go back to our urban renewal programs in the 1960s to see this level of effort. I would not say that the urban renewal program either will be as successful as I believe this will be as well. So with that, I will conclude and would be happy to take a question or two if they exist, and turn the table back to you, Professor O'Neal.
All right, thank you. Again, nice job. Again, wonderful work. I love the work that the IEDC does. I present there annually on second stage companies and support. But I guess I would have one question for you. Is all this money making a difference, or is it just kind of a flash in the pan kind of stuff?
Well, right now, not much of it has actually hit the streets. So I'm hoping that it doesn't get sopped up and spreads thinly and doesn't accomplish much. I'm actually thinking that this will make a real difference. You know, providing $52 billion in manufacturing, and a lot of that is going to go to these fab plants. I mean, Intel is not going to waste that money. They're going to create new chips, faster chips, more powerful chips, and they're going to employ a lot of people in the process. All of those things are going to be good for the U.S. economy.
Good.
Anything else?
I'm
going to go to bed then.
Thank you so much, Jeff, for your participation and supporting our event. Thank you so much. Have a great evening.
You're welcome. Take care.
You.
Goodbye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
What you conclude, Professor Tom, what is your opinion about the presenters and their feedback?
Well, they're all very interesting stuff.
Specifically, you have many experiences. You are a VP, you are a professor, you are inventors. You have many destinations in your life. You are supporting innovations ecosystem. You have many destinations.
Well, yeah, back in 2005, I did my PhD dissertation. It was innovation and entrepreneurial ecosystems. I think I was, if that word was out there then, but I had never heard it before. I thought I made it up, you know. But the whole notion is everybody has an ecosystem, and what do you do to make it perform in ways you want it to perform? How do you put the right components in there and get the desired result? And I think a lot of people are doing a lot of good work, and they do understand it's not just an SBDC, or it's not just an incubator, it's not just a little entrepreneurship center. It's everything working together that makes these things robust and will allow you to keep your innovators and entrepreneurs in your community, because they all have to. They tell you they all have to go where they need to go to be successful. And if your ecosystem can support them in what they're doing and they can excel, they will stay there. If not, you need to look at your ecosystem I guess, very, with a truthful eye, and not try to make yourself feel good, but really look at it with an earnest, objective opinion about what you need, what you're missing, and how you can fill the gaps in the system and make it better and more robust, so you can benefit from the innovation-based economy. That's what everybody's trying to do. And it's interesting that the U.S. is really trying to put a lot of money in it right now, and I hope they're putting that money in the right places. Is all my concern is, not just spreading it out equally, because it needs to be targeted to make sure it has the most benefit. But great presentations, all of them.
Yes, perfect.